Welcome back. You're watching News X. I'm Rishabh Gulati, and well, what a day it has been. We are a couple of days away from Diwali, and hey presto, we have gotten what we were waiting for weeks. Information on what has happened already in terms of the stimulus package that was announced a few months ago, and good news on what is coming next. There is a kick in the gut that the economy has already taken. We are in a recession, and a significant one of almost 9%. That's pretty official now for the first time in living memory. But a lot of the other indicators are up. Are we past the worst, or is it still to come? If this is now going to mean that the budget come end of January is simply going to be a continuation of the exercise that is currently happening, what's done and what needs to be done? A lot of good parameters seem to have come our way, but we can always imagine that there are many things that we still have in the agency in this country as individuals, as wealth creators, as entrepreneurs. Mission 2021 has to be to unleash India. Mission 2022 was to save India. Let's open up this conversation. Joining us on the broadcast, I have Dr. Anurag Batra, Editor-in-Chief of the Business World, Vinesh Menon. He is CEO, Education, Skilling and Consulting of Ampersand Group. Kumar Vikram Singh, Chairman of the Central Association of Private Security Industry. Srinath Sridharan, Independent Strategic Counsel and Markets Commentator, joining us on the broadcast. Let me kick this off with Dr. Anurag Batra. Dr. Batra, what were your takeaways, sir? It's a 12-point plan that's come out with some good news. We now have $560 billion of forex reserves. GST collections are beyond 1 lakh now. FDI is looking healthy at 35 billion. But the benchmark GDP figure is still -9.
Rishabh, first of all, a happy Dhanteras to you, to all the viewers and the panelists. First of all, let me say it's an historic day. The reason I say historic day, I know that Corona is still very much there. I know economy still needs a lot more work. We also need to see beyond October, November. But the reason I say historic day is because it's the government is in play, and it's a opportunity for the government to make sure it becomes the catalyst that it is trying to be. And the reason I say that is that politically the government is in a good space. I mean, look at the Bihar elections, look at the results of the assembly by-polls in many states. The incumbent government has done very well. When you have confidence, when you are doing well, then you take bold steps. Then you go for structural reforms. Then you dream big. I think the government is doing exactly that. And the government is very much aware of the fact that economy needs work. Economy needs, a positive catalyst. And the government is doing its bit. So October has been spectacular. November is looking good. And the government is trying to do its bit to build on these 2 months. And as rightly said by the finance minister, that this is not just a pent-up demand that is showing up in these months, but there is some traction in the economy that may continue. And to be able to give wings to that, the government has announced a 12-point plan. And you're right, the foreign exchange reserves are at high, and the Minister of State for Finance very eloquently said कि mood ही ठीक नहीं है, Moody's ने हमारी rating भी ठीक कर दी है. So the rating agencies are also recognizing that we are the biggest economy in the world, which has the kind of demand that no other economy which is emerging has. We're fundamentally strong. So I think there's a lot of cheer, but we have to be cautiously optimistic. Okay. Now, all this has to be translated into execution, as we've always said, that the key is in details and the key is in execution. But my thumbs up to the government for being proactive.
Okay, let's look at the report card. Anurag, let's look at the report card before I get the others in. The report card, what is the report card saying? One nation, one ration card. Social sector, but fundamentally important to fix the issues of the migration we had. Now they're saying interstate portability has already been achieved. 68 crore people are already covered. 1.5 crore transactions have already happened per month in this interstate one nation, one ration card, which means that people living in a different state are using this card at the rate of 1.5 crore a month. The PM Street Vendor Scheme, which was the Swanidhi scheme, 26.32 lakh applications were received. 13.78 lakh loans amounting to 1300 crores have already been given out. 2.5 crore farmers have applied for 1.83 lakh applications under the ECLG. of which 2 lakh crores has been sanctioned to 61 lakh borrowers. 1.52 lakh crores have been disbursed under the partial credit guarantee scheme. PSU banks have further given loans of 26,000, almost 27,000 crores, and this housing scheme, 7,200 crores have already been dispersed. Further 1.2 lakh crores has now been sent in to the union territories and the states, which after the force majeure thing happened, that's the correction happening. 25,000 crores for road and defense has been put in. So these are real things. But when we are talking about Rozgar, 8,300 crores has been given to 1.5 lakh companies to incentivize job formation. So this is the report card, Anurag Batra. It seems like big figures, but are we seeing the change happening? Is the worst over?
I'm not sure the worst is over, but let me address 2 points. One, even in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, I did tell some of my journalistic colleagues that the last mile that this government does really works for the bottom of the pyramid. And the whole focus is making sure that the bottom of the pyramid is addressed, which is the big numbers, which is real Bharat, which is literally, people who need help, if I may say. Second is the biggest theme is social inclusion. Even in the speech, the Honorable Finance Minister emphasized again and again on the PM's vision of being a socially inclusive vision. And even if you look at the last 2 budgets that she presented, the focus has been social inclusion. But when it comes to jobs, even October, November being will have an impact that will possibly be seen post-March. Only when this momentum continues for 4 to 6 months, will you see
can we actually call it a recovery? Yeah, fair enough.
Right now, it is looking good. We must celebrate that and we must acknowledge that.
Yeah, the more we celebrate Diwali, the better it is.
I've been saying on this show that the government will come out with a new package.
Well, here it is. Yeah, well, here it is.
So that's exactly what has happened today.
Yes, well, here it is. And we are now 2 months away and the budget will be technically now the third package. Okay, now let me open up this conversation because there is worth putting out the mention that in all the social inclusion schemes, okay, I'll give you a premise. The premise is this, that we could have faced in this country during the course of 2021 limited locational famine because we are completely shut down. People could have gone hungry, forget GDP growth. We could have faced vast scale social unrest or rioting. These things did not happen this year. So that's the baseline. Now that baseline does not make for 10% GDP growth, but that's the worst case scenario. We have to now make 2021 bigger in living memory than even 1991 was. So let me have that conversation. Mrs. Sridharan, here we are, sir. What is your takeaway? What is that you're actually seeing that is filling you with some hope before I ask you what needs to be done beyond this?
Sure, thank you. I think in a crisis like this, we have had 2 large announcements, today's being the second. And I think it's a welcome change. Every crisis also brings about the need to experiment. So I think we have had some successes with some of these schemes and we have had not so great successes as well. And I think we should not get worried if a scheme does not pick up. This has been an unprecedented crisis. So governments, just like individuals, you and me, will have to experiment and they've done it. Today's announcement, there are some interesting positives, but to me, the bottom line is this. Government is finally, and I'm using the word finally with a word of caution, showcasing it itself as an economic enabler. I kind of disagree with Anurag on the socialist platform. For any sustainable, socialist, successful economy, you need a good, robust economy. If people don't make money, if people don't have food on the table, there is going to be unrest. So I think here I would cautiously say that 2021, the next fiscal, should be the year of rebuild. So, and I also think that the budget may not be the stimulus package 3, because I think we are overrating the budget as a big event every year. I mean, it is nothing but the balance sheet of how the government of India is going to balance
its budget. Okay, that's the theory. Now, in practice, what have you seen that has actually helped, that you feel that actually helped stave off something or to save something in the past 6 months?
So I think some of the schemes of giving credit to the MSME and the SMEs have actually taken off. I think we have to be practical about it. There are also learnings there. We had confusion about, and which still is in the court of law, is the moratorium issue. we could have simply, I think, got our act right in terms of the process, right? I mean, even today, some of the announcements for the MSME and the SME schemes, can we do a compulsory opt-in, which means that every single consumer already in the system, because your credit score is available with you, the entire Kundli, so to speak, is available with the banks, can we make it compulsory opt-in? It will, one, reduce the lengthy processes and I'm cautiously saying probably local level harassment or paperwork that can be avoided. And two, it also allows for the borrowers to say, I don't think my business is viable anymore and I'm going out. And that's one thing I expect this to happen.
Okay.
Two, the middle class, I'm hearing a sense of disappointment with the euphoria shown by the stock markets. My friends in the capital markets would disagree because I think we're expecting in the special trading session that we will have on Saturday, there's almost a sense that it might be the highest ever index. And if you reflect it on the forwards projection of the profitability of the companies,
it doesn't work. But Srinath, we know the logic behind. The logic is that, if you're getting 1% interest, 1.5% interest, in some places, in some countries, negative interest, all that money is going one way. So so I've not even mentioned the stock market in all of this for this obvious reason. Okay, so quickly.
No, but there's a problem there. There's a problem there because in the stock market, if any correction happens immediately, let's say in a day or two trading sessions, whenever, it is the retail investors who get impaired. The institutional investors have already got out.
Okay, so beware that in the stock market.
I would like to come in.
And I know Dr. Batra is anything but a socialist, so let him qualify.
I'm okay with that tag. It's okay. But what I meant, Srinath, was a social inclusion. I mean, the finance minister started her speech by talking about migrant labour. Started her speech by talking about how people are getting ration cards which they can use in other cities. So the whole focus is social, and that's the right thing to do.
Correct.
And it impacts a large number of people, and I think those are the people that need help, and rightly so. Second is in terms of, I would say, the government, as you rightly said, knows that economy needs work, and it started to being active, engaging, and of course, it shows a moment when the GST collection is at the highest. The economic activity in the last 45 days has been very good. Now, if this continues, then clearly there is reason for cheer, and I have no doubt that 2021 will build a base for us to be again.
2021 has to be bigger than 1991. Has to be bigger than 1991. Let me quickly get Kumar Vikram Singh into this conversation. Sir, let me ask you the same question. What have you seen in both the speech that has given you some hope that, okay, this is what we are getting right, and I'm going to ask you what we need to do next after that? What have you gotten right so far?
Thank you very much. See, I'm a security man. For any nation to prosper or remain stable, the security of the people and the financial security are very two fundamental things.
Correct.
Which one must understand. And as far as financial security is, I can see in this stimulus, a government is doing very well. Ever since the pandemic started, the lockdown started, thereafter, every step they are taking is again keeping the social inclusion in mind and also help the people, those who are required to be helped this time. The kind of things which happened in my sector, I have a 9 million people security guard working, securing all communities and corporates and cities.
So have they got some help? Have they been seeing, are you reporting back from employees who in their families?
Out of those people, almost 1.5 million, they went back and they came back now. They came back because the Ministry of Labour also ensured that if you are going out, we'll give you the salaries. So they are being sent those salaries the last 3 months. Every security guard who went back to village, their salaries of that period has been paid. Nobody is aware of it. When these people have the money, they came back, they started working, they started purchasing things and all that, as far as we
but are you getting anecdotal evidence, sir, that's making you feel confident that when it came to this ration distribution, that their families got it? When it came to the direct cash transfusions, that their families got it?
We are keeping a very close monitoring of our security guard because they are related to the security of other people. So if they are not happy, what we were talking with the social unrest was, it was anticipated. This didn't happen because the security sector became very alert and very, very effective. So all people if the 9 million people of the whole population, those are supposed to secure the whole industry or whole country, they are feeling happy at the moment.
Okay.
And what more is needed is the government to spend more on infrastructure, create more jobs.
Okay,
You
but
know,
yeah, it's all about jobs, but you're still trying to figure out how. Now, here's the premise, and I'll drop the premise. The premise of the logic is that the biggest problem in this country is that 90% of what the heck is going on, we honestly have no idea. Okay, what we call unregulated, deregulated, doesn't matter. 90% of what was going on, we had no idea. So, when we say that we want to set up accounts in the multiple crores, that are people entering the formal banking sector for the first time. As much as I'd like to have it, that didn't happen. People entering the formal insurance sector for the first time. We could distribute the money quickly directly to bank accounts because the people had the bank accounts. Earlier, they had the postal deposits. Let's face it, nothing was happening there. Ration cards. A formalized ration card system now means we have data on migration and movement, which will be with us forever. So you know that a person registered in Uttarakhand is working in Tamil Nadu because they're withdrawing ration from Tamil Nadu. Yes, there will be problems in this, but this was 90% of the problem. This doesn't solve all our problems. But today, no one can say they have reliable jobs data. Remember the 2018 election debates on jobs data? Everybody was giving a different figure because we are not in a position like America where I can tell you this week these many unemployment claims were happening. But okay, on the larger premise, Mr. Menon, what is giving you hope? Now, I don't want, we know the theory of it. What have you seen that has actually made you, your employees, companies you work with, get a bit of benefit over the past few months?
Okay, so I'm going to try and answer this question in wearing three hats. Okay, so one, as a citizen, as an individual, I think this is fantastic. It's good to see what everybody said. I completely agree. The government is in play. There is something happening throughout the pandemic. I think the government is somewhere shown that they are with this whole crisis and they've been kind of walk along with the problems. So no complaints there at all. I've been in the banking and finance sector earlier. So from that perspective, I think some good stuff happening. Financial stimulus is always good. And I think there's a lot of work happening to really boost the economy. But I'll just be a little bit of a dampener without taking away anything that the Honorable Finance Minister has done. I come from the education sector, okay, and we run schools. We work with both private schools and also with government schools. And while there are a few areas that probably can indirectly affect us in the positive sense, I think there is some relief on EPFO as far as new hires are concerned.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of positive sentiment that's coming up, and therefore probably all those consumers who are going to be benefiting are probably parents of children who are today having a lot of problems in paying the fees, and I think that's going to be pretty good. I think we work with the government, so there's a little bit of relief as far as the EMD is concerned, as far as the performance security is concerned, small little reliefs here and there. But overall, I think one area which I would I would have been a bit happier if some more work is done to also parallelly try and build up the whole education infrastructure. You see, we are creating.
Okay, explain. What do you mean by infrastructure? Explain.
So let me put it this way: when there is a storm in the ocean, and the fisherman cannot go to the ocean to do his daily livelihood fishing, what does he do? He sits on the shore and works on his net. He strengthens this net. He kind of repairs all his tools. This would have been a great time for us to really go back into the base foundation and start educating and doing things. Access to children at the last mile, digital access, doing things to try and help the edtech companies, and a lot of the edtech companies do far more. 28 stress sectors is what the finance minister is talking about. Education doesn't fit there. So
yeah, but I thought edtech is a booming sector. You guys are raising what, $2.5 billion already this year.
No. So sure. There are 4,500 odd edtech companies out here. A few cannot really make the cut. Again, let me just emphasize. I'm not taking away anything. All I'm saying is probably.
Okay. So you are saying you would now. I mean, what does that equate to? That's the theory. They equates to what? Last mile fiber connectivity, internet connectivity. What are you talking about specifically?
I'm talking about trying to. Yeah, sorry, Anurag, you're carrying it.
Go ahead. I just want to say
boiling down to fiber. Yeah.
That what he's talking about is lots of. He runs a private school, but in a lot of government schools, at least 30%. I'm being safe. It's much more than. Don't have access to any device or connectivity.
No, that's in big cities. Forget rural areas. In big cities, the biggest problem was people didn't have internet at home and the big and large devices. This is what I got feedback I got from all, even serving government offices.
Precisely. So I'm in case if some relief was given to that area, if digital devices could have been cheaper.
Okay.
If there's some relief that could have been given to more MSMEs in this area,
Okay.
Probably
okay.
if you
Some relief, make it cheaper so it becomes more affordable. Some of the market forces will help you because scale matters. Prioritization of expenses also matters. A lot of people will be taking internet a lot more seriously. I think every home we are taking internet a lot more seriously. So all of that are economic factors that happen in free countries. Free markets will look after a part of it. A part of it can be incentivized, and that's the bottom line. Before I rope in our next guest is joining us on the broadcast, Amit Wadhwani. Anurag ji, let me come back to you. Okay, what's next? What do we now need to do? Because we are looking at frontline sectors, AI, data, space, defense, oceanic research, biotech. I can think of so many things. Where do we make 2021 a pivot year like 1991?
See, what will happen? First of all, Rishabh, we have to go back to basics. And the three basics, if you look at GDP, drivers are manufacturing. So yesterday, before the big package today, the government announced performance-linked incentives for manufacturing and sectoral incentives and sectoral kind of interventions. So clearly the government is trying to address manufacturing. The biggest negative of the COVID was the impact on the services sector, because services sector is essentially a people contact kind of a nature of work. It got impacted most. Now the government has to focus on that a lot. And the third is agriculture. If there's one sector that the government has really got right in the last 8 months almost perfectly, is the agriculture sector. However, we need much more cold storage. Let's jump to, let's say, Jan 2021. Let's say a vaccine from a certain company works, but we may need cold storages for our food. You know, we waste so much food grains every day.
Yeah, 40%.
Because we have no storage because of lack of storage.
40%.
Lack of, we waste that. That if that can be brought in the market, it means food inflation can be
Okay, so that's the theory. I'm just trying to reduce it into
clearly
practice.
The government is addressing manufacturing, it's addressing agriculture, the services sector, contact businesses, and that will. Also, the Finance Minister Rishabh started giving statistics on how COVID rates are lesser, relatively speaking. How are
that's good news, but we don't know.
How are mortality? So there was a element of trying to give confidence.
Confidence, I agree. The logic of confidence, and that's the finance minister's job. You can talk down an economy and you can talk up an economy. Even in medicine.
And that's why, Rishabh, that number of the foreign exchange reserves, because we all know that there was a time when our foreign exchange reserves were very, very weak. So to be able to share that number, because people remember big numbers.
I remember
and that's a real big number. So it does show India's strength as an economy. The record GST collections show that we are inherently a strong economy, and as I've said reportedly for the last 6 months, in 2022 expect us to be bigger than what we were in 2019. I'm not sure it'll happen.
Which means we'll have to wipe out 10% negative growth and next year. Possible, doable if we do get things right. Okay, let me quickly get Mr. Wadhwani into this conversation. Amit, what have you taken away today? Are you feeling a bit better? Little bit of subventions have come your way in your sector.
Yeah, right. So, we can already see the real estate stocks reacting to the finance minister speaking earlier during the day. But, as the way people look at Indian real estate, we are far more innocent, and we feel delighted a minute there is even a 18,000 crore, which I feel is minuscule, but there is some hope at the end of the tunnel. In 3.0 that this 18,000 crore will go into PMAY urban, which is what I see is one of the key areas here, because anyway, tier 2, tier 3 cities were doing fairly well, but it is the Delhis, the NCRs, the Bangalores and Mumbai cities which required
now Amit, speak to a lay viewer watching out there. Is it the best time to go out and buy a house? Should it happen now? Or should we wait for more SOPs coming our way?
Right. So that is a very subjective question, but I feel that going forward with every quarter, there will be something that will make real estate as an attractive sector. And I don't think buyers think about timing, because they are not really investing. They are looking at consuming the product. One good thing about today's announcement is that investment or purchases of real estate up to 2 crore rupees will have a 20% tolerance as far as income tax calculations are concerned in terms of short-term capital gain, which makes it very, very attractive. So that is one of the big move of the decade, the way I look at it.
Okay.
And I feel buying any which ways
Okay.
is happening. If anybody
And Rishabh, if I may ask,
Yeah, go
add
ahead.
to what Amit is saying, I started my career in real estate and I do understand real estate. Now, even if you look at the residential sales in the last 2 months, they've happened in the mid-market, which in most cities, I mean, in Bombay, 2 crores is lesser money than 2 crores in Delhi or NCR. But in that range is where 90% of the sales have happened in the last
more than 90%.
45 days.
More than 90%.
Clearly, while a lot of people may think that may not, be an accelerator in my understanding, with the amount of money salaried people have saved in the last 8 months, only focusing on essentials, coupled with this incentive, I think real estate will get a boost, and we can do a reality check, so to say, in 2 months to see what's been the lift. But
I promise you all, Anurag, all the money I had saved in those few months is already gone ahead of Diwali, which is good for the economy. That's how I'm justifying my spending to my family. It's good for the economy. Think larger picture. Okay, let's get Srinath back into this conversation. Srinath, in the end, we are trying to educate a Team India approach, right? We have to unleash India. Have we got a few other things right? There was a lot of controversy in Parliament over the farm sector bills. In the end, was it a good thing? Are we getting both reform practice going on labor, on law, on agriculture and otherwise?
So I think on that count, we are, I think, progressing well. There would always be controversies. If you look at it, there was controversy when we started the JAM Trinity as well. As Anurag pointed out, some of these structural reforms that this government did in the last few years are actually laid the backbone. Even the fact that we could track the migrants or even track whether they're picking up ration from a different state is possible only because of that structural reform of JAM Trinity.
Okay.
The farm reforms, labor reforms, I think still need some more headwinds to go. I think we need to simply somehow remove the Inspector Raj, which we
Bang
still
on.
with.
I agree with you.
That's a reality. So if you have to, while this government may want to work with the bureaucracy, but can we trust our citizens and say, if we catch you, this is what we do, but we will catch you digitally. But the fact is, remove all the license reforms. Just simply look at the number of licenses a restaurant, local restaurant wants, not even a hotel. I'm talking about a restaurant or a cafe.
No, but are you seeing it happen? Because you mentioned restaurants, obviously. I think 40 odd licenses are required. A couple have been knocked out. For example, in Delhi now, you don't need a tourism license. Why in the world would you need that? But somehow you did. Are the governments understanding this now? One is to do it and one is understand the need to do it. Is it happening? Srinath.
So I think a lot of it is also about optics. The government, I mean, if you look at 30 years ago, having a landline at home was seen as a luxury item.
Yeah.
And this is the same country in 10 years skipped the entire pager movement and moved on to mobile phones.
Yeah.
So the governments also have to be in touch with reality. I mean, what is luxury? And that's an optics. The government, all governments.
I agree with you. You're bang on.
We would want.
I can reverse that argument. Up to 10 years ago, not a long time, up to 10 years ago, we calculated our inflation index on the sales of typewriters. That teaches us a lot on how we need to get our act together. Mr. Menon, let's look forward now. This is what's been done. This is where we are at. Okay, it's better than where we were certainly 3 months ago. What do we do next? What's on your checklist?
So I think we are clearly staying focused on what we do best right now. We are attempting to try, and we have been investing into technology in a big way even before the pandemic, and it's only heightened up with the pandemic. So our objective is really to try and take the whole education platform across to the masses as much as we can. We are building a pretty strong digital platform in that front. That's number one. Number two, as far as real estate is concerned, there's been a bit of a halt in our school expansion plan.
Yeah.
And that needs to kind of get revived because we normally open about close to 4 or 5 schools in a particular year. That's come to a total standstill.
Yeah.
We need to get that going. Number three, I think we need to do a lot to take care of the sentiments that right now binds both the teachers as well as the consumers. Frankly, consumers could be teachers, they could be parents, but these are the two sections of society that have got a little affected with this whole pandemic. No schools, children at home. How do you really teach online, pre-primary versus...
So where are we creating, Mr. Menon, where are we creating the jobs? Where is the job growth happening? It might be temporarily in the virtual space, but eventually people will have to go down to do real things in real places as well.
Yeah, so I think right now, like I said, we are job creators in the education space. So educators, academicians, content writers, technology, edtech folks, these are the areas that we really help to build. And that is an area which has slowed down a bit, not the edtech space, of course.
Have to versus how to is an argument we still need to have. Kumar Vikram Singh, looking ahead in the next 2 months, what do we need to get right? Unmute yourself, sir, please.
See, very important factor is once again the ease of doing business, which I am aware of. Each ministry is working very hard to bring ease of doing business. And even today, I mean, say it was today when we met the amateur official, they announced a new regime for the private security sector. They brought a lot of changes in the management of the Private Security Agency Regulation Act, which will bring growth and good management for the entire sector. And also the portability of the jobs and training also. They are creating that kind of environment which bring more young people into the private security sector, and the legal management, your law management and other things, like code of wages and social security and other areas are other steps which the government has very positively taking it, which is going to have a very good impact on the employment.
Again, I'm trying to reduce this from theory into practice. I need to take a very, very short break. I'm going to come and ask Kumar Vikram Singh if most of the people that he knows who are security guards now have bank accounts, are able to access a loan. Do they have debit cards? And if so, are they spending money or saving money? We want to do two things in the country: generate demand and generate jobs. Both are complementary. You generate demands, companies do better, they hire more people. You generate jobs, people spend more money, companies do better, they hire more people. That's a positive economic spin, moving away from a negative spin. I take a break. We're back in a couple of minutes. Mohandas Pai also joining us on the other side. See you in a couple. Welcome back. We've been having an interesting conversation on what's been done. We're getting a pulse of the people. I would love to figure out what is a success, what isn't, and what needs to be done next. Let's try to turn theory into practice quickly over the course of the next 20 odd minutes. Mohandas Pai are now joining us on the broadcast as well. Mr. Pai, appreciate you taking out time for us. What's your gut telling you, sir? Are you hopeful that at least some of the economic measures somewhere are helping?
I think the economic measures are helping very well. For example, we are seeing in September GST go up by 10%, and GST went up by 5% for the August payment in September, right? We are seeing all indications go up. Auto sales have gone up 26% from the wholesalers. And we are seeing even two-wheeler sales go up. We are seeing railway freight go up. We're seeing banking credit go up, even though corporate credit is down. So I think we're seeing all indications. And the RBI says today that second quarter will be -8. That means we have come up from -24 to -8, which is very, very good. That means a 16% increase, right? Compared to the first quarter. And they say that quarter 3 will be a positive growth, which is very good news. And all the things that government did is paying off. Interest rates are down. Investments are not happening, but today we are told that many companies are planning to invest more because they're seeing greater capacity utilization.
So Mr.
Steel
Pai,
is doing very well.
We're talking about capacity,
real
but
estate is picking up.
the conversation we were having earlier, Mr. Pai, on the MSME sector, where is that going? Has enough been done? What more can be done?
Well, for the MSME sector, I think the most important thing is infrastructure money spending should go up. Even though many projects have been bid out, money is not being spent. And I think that's important. And for MSMEs, again, the same problem, government payments, PSU payments, private sector payments should go up. The MSME's main problem is when they sell to others, they don't pay you on time. And they've got old dues all these years. Even we've got some startups who are not being paid for 6 months. The big companies are saying, oh, we are being shut down on the COVID, we don't have the bill, they're giving stupid excuses. So I think the important thing is that people, PSUs, everybody should pay. And next is the infrastructure, actual cash spending should go up. If the cash spending goes up, then you'll see the impact on MSMEs. But MSMEs are better today than maybe 3 months ago because of the special government guarantee loans. I think the government guarantee loans have been a big boon. About 1.5 lakh crores has been disbursed, 2 lakh plus crores have been sanctioned.
Okay, so that's of course the credit guarantee scheme. Let me quickly get Anurag back into this conversation. Anurag, a similar conversation we were having not a long time ago, where we were saying that PSUs need to clear their payments, infrastructure payments need to become cash heavy, front loaded. Getting these basics right needs to happen not only at the center but more importantly at the state level. How do we make an impact there? How do we get states to become stakeholders in this process? Anurag, if you can hear us. How do we get states to become stakeholders in this process, Anurag?
Yeah, I heard Mr. Pai say what he said. And he's so right about it. See, at the end of the day, you take any economy in the world, established or emerging, whatever, the demand is directly proportional to the number of jobs and the disposable money that people, because that's where the middle belly comes in, or the large number of people who spends on almost everything that makes up for the economy coming. So the government today in its 12-point program has also tried to incentivize corporations for hiring more people, right? Now, that will depend on how the economy shapes up. In the last 2 months have been good. There is no, even in media, advertising is back 70-80%, depending on what sector and what product you are in. But the key is to be able to get government spending to create new jobs, and hopefully that will have a multiplier impact.
Okay.
Now, that may mean it may take another 6 months. Even if the government starts to spend immediately today, it may take couple of months for it to start.
Is there a
but
formula?
It's a good time to start when everything else is also kind of working out. It's a good time to start, and for all you know, we may be surprised with the recovery that all of us couldn't expect.
Surprise recovery. Before I go back to Mr. Pai, Srinath ji, for states to become a stakeholder on this process, some of them are doing well, being very energetic. Others are more hamstrung because they're really worried about not getting funds from the center. How do we look beyond the center to what's happening now in state budgets, in state policies, because they are the ones who have to implement it?
See, the challenge is the consultative process, if it can be, let's say, friendly and not in the dialogue of us versus them. I think that's a fundamental belief I have. I mean, we shouldn't even split the state versus center. Each of them have a different structure, the federal versus the state in terms of borrowing in the debt market. But can they work together? And some of the, let's say, the debates or the differences we saw, the way GST Council panned out, I think we need to be more pragmatic and say we will leave our political ideologies and differences aside and work for the common benefit. That's one thing which I think RBI has shown its maturity very, very well in enabling even the states to borrow very well. Two, I think we have a very strong mechanism in the form of GST, and I think we are missing the boat there. Why can't we use GST credits-based lending? Each of our organizations have GST credit, and it is almost like a sovereign guaranteed amount.
Interesting point.
Why can't banks use GST credits? And it also helps the government of India saying that I'm cash, if their cash flows.
No. So hang on. So you are saying that if a credit is due back from the government worth X, you should be able to borrow off it until the government pays up, because anyway the government has to pay up. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, these are good financial mechanisms. These are problem solvers. That makes sense. Let me quickly get Mr. Menon back into this conversation. Mr. Menon, quickly going ahead, in jobs generation, you are in a sector that has a huge potential over the next few years in job creating. How much of those will be people adapting from different teaching jobs to a virtual space versus creating new jobs?
So I think if you get into the urban areas, it will definitely be adaptation to a large extent. But you start going into the hinterland of India, start getting into the villages, start getting into the tier 3, tier 4 towns. I think there's a lot of scope out there to start getting people into the teaching space and starting the whole education platforms on a different light. In fact, we have kind of put a concept paper. It's a bit of a sneak peek though. A concept paper to try and see how to go into different districts at a village level and start creating a small little ecosystem, a kind of an Atmanirbharta, if you call it, in the areas of education, food and healthcare.
Explain. How does that look like as opposed to Anganwadi? What does your ecosystem model look like?
No, so first of all, it is at a very nascent stage. Anganwadis are primarily designed to take care of early childcare and education.
Correct.
I'm talking about creating a similar platform to try and see how we can bring healthcare, food and education right at the last mile. Let's look at a place where there are no healthcare facilities.
Yeah.
How do you get a local person to probably become that conduit to try and get a healthcare facility into the last mile person?
Okay.
How do you get a local person to become a teacher to try and help? So take a village of 500 to 1,000 people and how do you make a little ecosystem there, and then start replicating
Okay,
it if it starts,
fascinating. I would love to have a more detailed conversation. Biggest employer in the country, Amit Wadhwa, is infrastructure and construction. Are you guys back up full steam? Laborers are back, architects, engineers are back, or is it still a bit sketchy?
You know, I feel these things are pretty much back on track. What requires is the mindset of the Indian aggregator, be it the banks, NBFCs, or developers, that these bailout packages will continue to continue the industry to move forward, help the industry to move forward inch by inch. But the big hindrance here is that demand needs to come back. People need to start choosing Indian real estate as an asset class where they can invest and also consume. So I see with the current announcement, with today's announcement, there should be demand even in tier 1 cities where there is a lot of unsold stock which was piling up at about 9.5 lakh crore of unsold stock between the top 5 cities.
Why is it not happening at throwaway prices? Why aren't we getting huge discounts?
No, because India,
There are no throwaway prices.
No, there aren't any.
Misconception that the developers have brought it to.
The problem is, to summarize this in a shorter version is difficult, but I'll attempt. There are too many stakeholders. There is a bank which is underwritten. There is an NBFC that is provided construction finance. There is a private equity fund which is invested. There are a few real buyers. There are a few unorganized investors. There are contractors. There are steel manufacturers. Cement guys who have not been paid. So there are too many stakeholders which collated or everything put together decides the pricing. So I think though we understand that the developer dictates the pricing in India, that is not true in November of 2020. Pricing is decided by various
but there is something called cash flow also that is important, which is what the problem is. And inputs come in every industry. Okay, Anurag ji wants to make an intervention, then Srinath ji wants to make an intervention. Then I want to go back to Mohandas Pai. Yeah.
Srinath was part of a holdco, which was a very large financial services company. So I really welcome Srinath's suggestion of, GST-based credit. I mean, that's a real.
It's a great idea. Genuinely good idea. Yes.
If you can do that and in some way link it with, banks and get banks to be able to, because in spite of the government's good intent, in spite of the finance minister talking, the credit in the last 8 months was difficult to come by.
Yes.
Because banks were conservative. Look at the money banks parked with the RBI. I mean, that's a good way to
record
look at
levels. Yes.
The banks are. What will be interesting is if the finance minister's optimism, and rightly so, is shared by the banks in the way they lend. I mean,
okay. I'm running desperately short of time. Srinath wants to make an intervention. Srinath, quickly, then I want to go back to Mr. Pai. Srinath.
Sure. The quick for the any feasibility study that the banks, non-banks do for developer financing or real estate funding, the biggest challenge is, I think, greed comes in.
Wait, Kari.
I think the simplest way is to say that we will have a clause of maximum selling price, which will actually force the builder to sell it earlier on to have sales velocity and not necessarily say price upar jayega, let me wait for some more time. I think some of those days are gone, but we have to bring in the concept of maximum
I agree.
selling price.
Even the government's been leaning hard on developers to builders to get out there, get the inventory sold, but there is a lot of resistance. I don't know whether that's good for the country or the sector or not. Kumar Vikram Singh, your quick last thoughts, sir. I want to rope in Mr. Pai after that before we wind up. Sir, unmute yourself, please. Vikram Singh ji.
Like the finance minister is unmuted, you have to unmute yourself.
Something good for these builders and developers in our private security sector. We need 7 million dwelling unit in Rakshak Awas Yojana, which we know starting as a part of the Prime Minister Awas Yojana.
Yes.
And we said this can be a great opportunity for the builders. A 7 million dwelling unit pan-India.
So think about it. So the opportunities are there. I have run out of time. Before I completely run out of time, let me quickly get Mr. Pai back in. Mr. Pai, one specific thing which we haven't discussed in detail, we only got a mention, was EPF changes. Does that automatically infuse liquidity if that was the problem? Or is the problem?
I think the EPF changes are very good because remember, all the incentives that government gives today are based upon capital investment. In the Income Tax Act, for example, you get large breaks for depreciation. In the Income Tax Act, capital gets greater benefits than labor. Now with the labor reforms and the 44 laws becoming 4 codes, and now with this benefit given to people to hire, I think employment will go up. And remember, last time the government gave this EPFO subsidy, they created 1.39 crore, I think, jobs in the formal sector. So this is very good news. And I think in the state of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, where there's large labor surpluses, they must also say that for every job created, we'll give you 2,000 rupees a month for 3 years. In addition to this government's central government grant, because the biggest issue is how to create jobs for people in the big states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar.
Correct.
Because these are labor surplus states. Even by the migrant crisis happened, we saw many people go back to Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. How do you create labor-intensive industries in these states? Because these states have got surplus labor. I wish the state government will come with a scheme which says, for every new job created where you pay EPFO, etc., where Government of India gives the EPFO credit, we will give you 2,000 rupees a month for up to 3 years. And that will be very good because we got to incentivize job creation. And why do 2,000 rupees? Because you have to train people.
Okay.
You have to train people.
Okay.
To
Okay.
improve
Mr. Pai,
productivity.
let's come back.
And that's
Let's come
important.
back in just a bit and carry on this conversation. I've drastically run short of time, and I believe the Prime Minister is inaugurating the Vivekananda statue at JNU as we speak. I'm going to thank all my guests. This conversation is not over. We have done, along with Anurag ji, I've lost count, 110 hours, 120 hours of conversations on the economy. We are not stopping here. I thank all of you. We hop across to the Prime Minister addressing the students of JNU. Let's listen in for a couple of minutes before we take a break.
स्वामी विवेकानंद देश के शिक्षा मंत्री डॉक्टर रमेश पोखरियाल निशंक जी, जेएनयू के वाइस चांसलर प्रोफेसर जगदीश कुमार जी, प्रो वाइस चांसलर प्रोफेसर आरपी सिंह जी, आज के इस अवसर को साकार करने वाले जेएनयू के पूर्व छात्र डॉक्टर मनोज कुमार जी, मूर्तिकार श्री नरेश कुमावत जी, अलग अलग स्थानों से जुड़े फैकल्टी मेंबर्स और विशाल संख्या में इस कार्यक्रम के साथ जुड़े हुए मेरे सभी युवा साथियों, मैं जेएनयू प्रशासन, सभी शिक्षकों और स्टूडेंट्स को इस महत्वपूर्ण अवसर पर बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, स्वामी विवेकानंद जी कहते थे, मूर्ति में आस्था का रहस्य ये है, मूर्ति में आस्था का रहस्य ये है कि आप उस एक चीज से विजन ऑफ डिविनिटी डेवलप करते हैं। मेरी कामना है कि जेएनयू में लगी स्वामी जी की ये प्रतिमा सभी को प्रेरित करे, ऊर्जा से भरे। ये प्रतिमा वो साहस दे, करेज दे, जिसे स्वामी विवेकानंद जी प्रत्येक व्यक्ति में देखना चाहते थे। ये प्रतिमा वो करुणा भाव सिखाएं, कंपेशन सिखाएं, जो स्वामी जी के दर्शन का मुख्य आधार है। ये प्रतिमा हमें राष्ट्र के प्रति अगाध समर्पण सिखाएं, प्रेम सिखाएं, इंटेंस लव फॉर आवर कंट्री, जो स्वामी जी के जीवन का ये प्रतिमा देश को यूथ लेड डेवलपमेंट के विजन के साथ आगे बढ़ने के लिए प्रेरित करे, जो स्वामी जी की अपेक्षा रही है। ये प्रतिमा हमें स्वामी जी के सशक्त समृद्ध भारत के सपने को साकार करने की प्रेरणा देती रहे। साथियों, ये सिर्फ एक प्रतिमा नहीं है, बल्कि ये उस विचार की ऊंचाई का प्रतीक है जिसके बल पर एक सन्यासी ने पूरी दुनिया को भारत का परिचय दिया।
Okay, the Prime Minister there addressing virtually the inauguration of a statue of Vivekananda in JNU. It's worth reading about the life of Vivekananda. It gives you an answer to what the end of the clash of civilizations happening in the West is going to be and how a person like Vivekananda represented it. Yes, we've had a lot of controversies in JNU, and you can take for granted there will be controversies going ahead also. But sometimes we can agree on certain things in this country as well. Okay, I take a break. We carry on with the evening agenda just after on the other side. Stay with us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.